Natalie, I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. I want to dive deeper because I've worked with you, but I don't know your story deeply. So this is exciting for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's such an honor.
So pleased. But I want to start by going backwards with your story. I want to know what you're most passionate about in your life now and
Mhm.
give the listeners a context about what you're doing.
Awesome. Okay. Most passionate about changing old paradigms and embracing and working with tools, with energy, with spirit, with mindset, etc. Working with the consciousness of the body, however that shows up, because there's a million beautiful modalities, and I'm blessed to practice and teach quite a few of them. Is how can we move beyond thinking there's time frames of when we can achieve something, there's time frames around manifestation, that we can only gain or achieve what we want when we've gone through the struggle, the challenge, the big upheaval. Because as human beings, our ego wants to create change through pain, suffering, struggle, and ego, and we've all fallen into that.
Mm.
But they're the moments where we want to really work with not even work with having to change the challenge, but be more in the question of why am I creating this and how can I create beyond it? So I guess I'm
Wow.
passionate about a whole new world and being able to contribute to the manifestation and the creation of a new world and a new way that we can manage emotions, relationships, money, business, etc.
So exciting. You're actually bringing the wisdom that we talk about on the Applied Wisdom podcast. So, really excited.
Oh,
And I think that what you said then could challenge a lot of people that we actually create the challenges we experience in our own lives,
yeah.
that we have more control than we think, that we're not victims
Yeah.
playing along.
Yeah. And, you know, when someone said that to me 25 years ago when I started this spiritual journey, exploration, you know, I was dragged kicking and screaming into this whole new way of being and was totally resistant. It is not my fault. I'm not creating any of this. These people did this to me. You know, there's nothing wrong with me, and I'm just going to shut down everyone else so no one can hurt me ever again. And it's really confronting to hear that. And we don't mean we created it like sitting there going, gee, I hope something awful happens today. But we create it from our thoughts. We create it from even trying to be like everybody else. Like, how many times has something awesome happened to you and someone goes, oh, that's great, but all this shit happened for me this week. And we go, oh, yeah, okay. I'll just diminish and contract a little bit.
Mm.
So
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
the possibility exists for something to be different, for us to create greater, and for us to learn that now at whatever age we are, but to be able to share whatever tips and tools that we're navigating life and business from this space, this spirit space, to younger people,
Mm.
to our children, our grandchildren, our nieces, nephews, the younger people around us,
Mm.
to make their life more easy. You know, I don't think
Mm.
it takes much to look around. I'm 56 now and think my childhood, my teenage, my young years was so much simpler and so much easier
Mhm.
than now. Even though there's so much more out there, technology and travel is easy and there's more money and all of those sorts of things. And I remember when my nana used to say that to me, and I used to go, old people say the weirdest things. And you know, suddenly you are the old person saying exactly the same thing. And it's so true. Each generation, each cycle swings around with different challenges, different joys, but also different things to navigate. And our default is usually to go to the wrongness of something, to work out what's wrong and how am I going to fix it. So we either then look for solutions, which is awesome, or we look to stay a victim and think we can't work out how to think our way out of it. And
Mm.
the key, however it shows up in your world, is always going to be the universe, energy, quantum entanglements, spirit, your soul, etc., and the karma and the DNA that you're holding on to. And there's a lot of ways that we can start to be at the effect of changing that, not trying to control it, but being able to affect change and let go of control and trying to think our way out of everything.
I'll come back to that because that's very much a key, isn't it? But I mean, you have learnt and got so many more tools now, but I'm sure, and you've just said as well, like early in your life, you didn't have these tools and you weren't aware. So let our listeners know a time when you were under a lot of stress and what you called on to get you through that at that time.
So the first 50 years of my life, even though I stepped into this journey 25 years ago, it has still been me that has been in the way of it being so much easier. So how I would have dealt with major challenges or struggles or dramas in the past would be trying to think my way out of it, trying to find out who's to blame, because it can't be me. Because if it's me, then all of those negative beliefs about me not being a great person and not being worthy and not being deserving will be true. So quick, who else can I pass this to? And that's a system of denial, I suppose. And as we move through self-awareness and self-regulation, that's the power of being able to use our mind for the brilliance that it is, but not let it run the show. Because I was always very much the logical, how am I going to get a solution? What do I need to do? And very much short term. You know, anytime I went to any of those coaching or training things and people would say, you know, map out your 10-year vision, I'd go, oh my God, I hate this. I don't think 10 years ahead. I don't think 5 years ahead. I'm trying to get through the next stage. How am I going to feed my kids? How am I going to pay for their braces? How am I going to have a great life for them when all I did was just keep stressing and spending all of my energy in that space? And there was very little room for joy and fun because they're frivolous things that don't create anything. So I was so wrong, for want of a better word, because the easiest and the greatest way to create anything is when we're happy, when we're joyful, when everything's easy around us. When that happens, I still have the tendency to go, right, where's the problem? Because if I can out-create the problem, then I'll get the reward, and then I'll go, awesome, how incredible am I? Because look, I got it. You know, I climbed over burning flames to get this. But if I just kind of walked up and got it, is it the same value? Have I really earned it? And that's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And I think as we step onto a spiritual path, the whole journey really is about getting back to the truth, back to center, and realizing that, you know, 99% of what we think and believe is not even true. Not even true. And we don't have to have big, long, convoluted practices to get rid of that. And I'm not dismissing by any means massive, big traumas. And my family have had some really big, massive, newsworthy traumas. So I have always known that I needed to out-create that. I needed to not dwell on it. I needed to be different to that. I needed to not have that as my identity. But it didn't mean that I wasn't, you know, pretty chuffed up for most of my life either. But I thought I was okay. So it's not until it unravels that you realize that you're really not okay. And then what? And, you know, being in the question and having faith in whatever your faith is in is vital for self-awareness and self-regulation for me.
So I wanted to come back to what you said before, which was around and what you immediately said, the faith in the process versus trying to control the process to get to an outcome. Because even when you start having some wellness and spiritual practices, when you're not in a challenging time and you're just starting to learn these things, I think that there's still an element of learning them for a purpose to achieve an outcome or to control something.
Yeah. And gee, that's a hard place to navigate. So Access Consciousness is one of the tools I work with, and there's lots of free resources, etc., on accessconsciousness.com site. they talk all the time about that. And I've been really, but actually interesting you asked that, because that's what I've been sitting in that space this week, is that when I'm creating and desiring to create my life and to bring things into my life, and I'm using these tools of meditation and shamanic practices, and I'm asking to create greater for everyone, but I've still got an element of, and it looks like a house here, and it looks like this much money, and it looks like this many clients. And that attachment to the outcome, that attachment to the validation, if I have 20 clients this week, wow, I must be awesome. If I can live in a beautiful home that I and everyone else admires, I must look successful. So there's this nonsense going on in our mind all the time that's propelled by our ego and our fears and our doubts, propelled and by our karma and our DNA and everything we've ever brought on as true. And that's what we're out creating. If we can, and it's not an instant process for me, it could be for many people, and that's awesome. But if I can ask to be the contribution, or be the energy of the earth, or be the energy of love, or truly desire to create a better world, and don't try and control how that looks or shows up, I'm not in ego of it needing to be me that does this. So that's collective energy. That's the universe. That's spirit. That's Pachamama. That's your rituals and meditation that people have been doing since the beginning of time, is to connect with that universal flow, which is you. You're not separate to any of those things, but to tap into that. Because you know what that feels like? Hey, when you're in that flow, you feel amazing. The world looks pretty. You think, does the sky always look so blue? And what we do is then we go to look for what's wrong around us. Because if we stay out here and it's really awesome, I don't want that snatched away from me. If I go back here and I temper it a little bit, or I ask for less, and how many times do people ask for less? The universe is out there saying, well, I was going to give you like all of this stuff, but you're really fixated on lack. So let's just give you more lack.
Yeah. It's a great example to bring it down to someone who is going through a separation or dealing with a death, something like that, because I often talk to people about thinking about what they actually want rather than positioning into a dollar amount or something like that, and setting an intention that's greater. So more like an intention that actually the best outcome is for everyone, rather than going, the intention is that I come out of this financially secure, and definitely not the intention is that I come out with $400,000 or whatever dollar amount they pick. Because as you said, the universe can give you better. So even if they do say, I want 400,000, we'll say that or better, because the intention is greater. But even to be able to wish everyone the best going through something really hard, I think a lot of people...
we could just ask for greater? One of the things that I learned early on working with Access Consciousness was to ask, how can I contribute and receive more today? And then I just leave that floating around. I don't make it look like in any way at all, because when we receive something, I mean receive it energetically. Yes, you might receive it like a whole bunch of money or a great opportunity arises. But when I'm asking, how can I receive more? I'm asking from a soul's point of view of all the things that create a magical life. Receive more fun, more joy, more peace today, more silence in my mind. And how can I contribute more energetically? So if I'm contributing more to this universe, what ripple effect is that going on somewhere that I don't ever need to know about? Because the spiritual paradigm, the spiritual way of life is about looking after me, looking after you, and looking after the universe. And it's okay to look after us first when we are in reciprocity. And one of the most beautiful shamanic practices, wisdoms, knowledges, etc., is Ayni, A-Y-N-I, sacred reciprocity. As I walk out onto the earth and I look in my backyard and I go, this grass is so beautiful. Look at this beautiful sky. That breeze is amazing. I'm contributing love, admiration, lightness, joy, etc. to the universe, to the earth. And Pachamama goes, oh, here, let me give you some of my beautiful energy, which we know is renewable and sustainable and grounding and perfect. But I don't go out there going, can this blade of grass bring me more money today? You know, I'm just using little simple mini practices of being really aware in the moment. Because if I go out the backyard and I go, man, it's so hot out here, the trees are all dying, this is a shit backyard, that's what I'm contributing and telling Mother Earth. And Mother Earth goes, no point of view, awesome, can I give you some of that back? You know, that's how we receive energy. If I feel great and I walk into a room and someone feels really crappy and they want to dump that on me, my energy wants to go, oh, I'll take that. I'll take that. And they feel great and I don't. So it's totally okay for us to have strong boundaries and energetic boundaries of just, hey, I'm not taking this on, but I'm willing to contribute the love and the joy that I feel today. And you can get to choose whether you stay grumpy or you allow yourself to receive that as well.
That's so nice. I wanted to go down the pathway of energy protection, but you gave us a glimpse of that. So we'll leave that where it is.
Awesome.
Since all the learnings that you've done, and of course you're on a pathway still, but have you had a challenge more recently that you actually got to use some of these tools that you now have, and how you were able to, because I think part of the problem is that we practice and then we get into a challenge and it all goes out the window.
Yeah. Well, every day really is the truthful answer. Every day, anytime I'm triggered, anytime I'm in worry, fear, or doubt, anytime someone's mean to me, anytime I find, you know, that scenarioizing we do, where you're walking on the beach or you're driving your car and next minute you've made a whole story up about something that either has never happened or happened a long time ago, and you bring it up of how you would want to, oh, I've got the right thing to say now to, So this is this scenarioizing. And long ago, when I didn't have as many tools, or even more, I want to say beyond self-awareness and self-acknowledgement, like when I really started to embody that I'm responsible for everything, I'm creating everything. I think when I really embodied that was a big turning point for me to look at everything I think and say and goes on around me, and ask the question, you know, what is it that I'm doing that's creating this? Because this is my reality at that moment. And it's a limitation. So why am I creating limitations? Why am I creating any struggle? Life is meant to be easy, absolutely easy and safe and protected, and terrible things happen all the time. And I never undermined. I know grief. I know deep fear. I know abuse. I know all of those things firsthand, and also through all of the beautiful clients and people that come into my world. There's no undermining of that or saying that child created that. We don't mean that on that level. We mean that the package of us and all the thoughts, feelings, beliefs, the soul karma, that's the stuff that creates the stuff that goes on around us. Our job is to uncreate all of that without making it so significant that we get bogged into the problem and the fixing of it. But how can we actually just live our life from peace and from love? So every day I would have one form or another of challenge that comes up, triggered by something I hear or read, triggered by something that goes on in the world, which I try to not pay too much attention to. But, you know, you hear and see the news and people tell you. They're the moments where I bring in my tools. They're the moments when, you know, a bill comes in, or little moments of running late for something, or big moments when there's big things going on for me or my children that, you know, are not fair, are out of our control, are frightening, or going to, you know, create loss of something, loss of money, loss of friendship, loss of life, etc. But I'm the common denominator in all of them. They're not happening to me. They're happening around me. And my level of awareness of ownership of that, or getting my business in the way of that, deciding to hold on to it, how much can I just let go of without even needing to do any of that? Or what tool do I need in the moment to shift that? And I do a lot of swapping in my modalities. Yep. So in my network of people, we don't allow each other to sit there in victim, in guilt, in drama, etc., in pain or grief. We go, hey, I see you, I feel you. How can I contribute? You know, can you receive from me? No, I can't. I want to sit over here in my pissed offness or my sadness. Awesome. Do you need food? You know, would you like food? Would you like advice? Would you like a hug? Would you like something to facilitate the shift of this? And we do it really beautifully, because without that as my community, and sometimes I check in with that and I'll have 3 or 4 or more sessions with people a week, paid or in a swap, both is equally as valuable, because otherwise I know that I'm this close to spiraling down into a lot of things. This close. I'm never far from that, you know, never far from that. And I would never say to anyone that I'm not. Sometimes I can go for beautiful, blissful periods of time. And then, you know, that's almost too good to be true for me and my makeup. So then what can I create that's disastrous so I can out-create it? So then I can go, oh, here we go. Now it's okay. And I'm working really committedly to a whole lot of tools for that to not be my reality. You know, I might only be here for 30 or 40 more years. I'd like them to be, and I desire them to be more magnificent than the last 56 have been.
Yeah, amazing.
And that's not to say I sit here going, what a terrible life I have. I've made my peace and reconciled through forgiveness. And actually two of the most powerful tools that I only had for a very long time, maybe 15 years, was Iyanla Vanzant's work and Reiki, because they were my first introduction. When I read my first Iyanla Vanzant book and heard her story of pain and abuse and torture, etc., and this woman loved and forgived these people, what? That was a turning point for me to actually think, actually, there might be a different way that you can live your life. And I do commit to allowing anyone or anything that I have attached pain or struggle or story to, or sadness or abuse to be forgiveness. They don't have to be in my world. And you know, I'm doing a lot of Control-Alt-Deleting in my world as we speak to honor me, because I've never been very good at that. So it is corny to say it's about self-love, and it's really hard to say no to someone that you don't want to say no to, or to say into your own self, I don't want to be around those people. It's not a great contribution for me. It doesn't make me feel better. But I am doing that from a place of me, not making them wrong, but from a place of I really have to love myself more. And the times that I have let really important and powerful connections go in my life, I've realized in that moment that I said enough, it's done, I actually loved myself more than them in that moment. Because when we stay in toxic friendships or relationships or work colleagues or jobs that are hurting us, we're doing it because we love them and think they're better than us. Whether it's a job, whether it's whatever it is, whatever story we've created, it really is that we love them more than we love us. And until we actually can love ourselves enough to go, this isn't okay, then the real work begins.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking there could be a flip side as well. There's, as you said, and this is when the situation's not horrendous. It's just that you're staying there because it's not that bad. And yes, you do really care and love for the people around you, but there's something that's just, and because you can't articulate it or quite describe it, you're just like, well, it's fine, like it's fine. And so I'd like to ask, but come back to it. How do you trust your intuition in that situation? But then the flip side is also, the people around you are actually probably potentially fine, but it could be a story that you're telling yourself as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, coming back to that intuition, because I struggle with this a lot, because intuition can be so quiet sometimes as well. And sometimes it only tells you once and you're like, I need to hear that again because I'm not sure that that's what you really want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. How do I know? Some moments where I've had the strongest intuition in my life have been the most bizarre things. When my second marriage ended and we sold our house and everything, that's when I started on this path. As a way to navigate all that pain and all that looping, here I am again. How did I miss this? What's going wrong kind of stuff. So, like, I didn't get any of this. I still thought it was a little bit of a crock of shit. And if you think you're putting your hands on me and you're healing me, give it your best shot, like, whatever. And this voice said to me, I remember saying, all right, well, every book I was reading, you're all saying you just talk to the universe and the universe will provide and you'll get whatever you ask. I was like, awesome, let's give that a shot. And I remember saying little things at first, like really simple things like, I don't know, show me a red hat. And then I'd see red hat. So I was like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. But you know what? They just could have been because I was looking for it.
Yes.
And then I remember just thinking at the sale of that house, I was like, what am I going to do now? There's not enough to buy another house. And as a single parent who didn't work because we had a business together, so I now didn't have a job or a home either, I don't have enough to buy a house. And if I stay here, how am I going to have this life that all these books and all this community of spiritual people say is possible if I stay here and do exactly the same things? And I mean, I didn't know anything, but I knew enough to be asking questions like, I don't know how I'm going to do that. And this voice in my head said so clearly, you need to move to Vanuatu and open a healing center. And I was like, well, one, I only just did level 1 Reiki, so how could I do that? 2, where is Vanuatu? So I went to the library, got a book, went, oh my God, we so could live there. And that was May or June. I went over in September to see what Vanuatu's like.
Yeah.
Came back and the youngest 2 children and I moved there in December and everything fell into place. I said I was going and someone said, that this guy that works in this shop in Caloundra, he's from Vanuatu. I met with him and his wife. They told me about it, introduced me to in Vanuatu, the accountant takes care of visas and residences as well. So I flew over there, met with him. People were paying a lot of money and taking a really long time and having, the backing of the banks and big companies, or they had shelf companies. That's how they were getting to Vanuatu back then. I didn't have any of that stuff. I got my visa, I got my residency, I got the kids in school. We moved over. We didn't even have anywhere to live. We stayed in a motel for a few days, and then this great house showed up. I was offered a job managing a day spa. Like, I still didn't know how to do anything, but they hired me to run that. And then I got hired to teach grade 5, 6 maths in a village school. And I'm like, I failed maths my entire life. But all of these opportunities kept coming. What I know now is I was creating those out of total faith, total believing the voice that said, go there.
Yep.
And I didn't stop to think about it. I didn't actually have any fear or doubt about it. And, I did create a healing center and a day spa, and I did do amazing things in Vanuatu. So that's when my intuition is really clear. 5 years ago, it started telling me to work with cacao and ceremony, and I had no idea what any of that meant. And now, 5 years later, I've run thousands of ceremonies, trained a couple of hundred people. I've got an accredited program, all of these amazing things. So from time to time, that voice is really clear. And we know when it's the right one, when it's never been in our realm before. It's something so outrageous that we just go, oh, what's that? And then it feels amazing. Yeah. That's the key. You get the awareness, which is kind of the perception. You perceive something, then you kind of know it, then you feel it, and then you think it and you go, oh my God, yes, which is really different to when you hear a voice going, you've got to pick up the dry cleaning, buy milk, pay the rego today, etc. So some people have amazing experiences and are so connected to their guides that they hear other voices. Awesome. Most of us are going to have our own voice, because who else would we listen to, really? Who else would I listen to if they told me what to do? It has to be my own voice, or I wouldn't listen. So those big moments where you feel that, and what usually happens after that, we then try to justify it, negotiate it, find out what could go wrong with it, or share it with everybody and they tell us it's a stupid or wrong idea and we go, oh yeah, only to find out later that someone else did, and you're like, damn it, I knew that was my idea. The little moments of intuition are exactly the same. They just might be quieter, like you said, but it's always the feeling. I get a lot of downloads, a lot of ideas, and I have Post-it notes. Lucky you can't see my desk, everywhere, of every idea I've got. And I've now learned not to act on them all, to sit there and leave them and then feel into them. That also will mean from time to time, I'll actually put up ceremonies, trainings, workshops, retreats, and then go, oh, actually, that's not in flow. And I cancel them and refund the money, which, is not a paradigm of business that a business coach would generally tell you. But when I combine both ways of working, I know if I don't, I'm not going to get the sales. I'm going to get sick. Something's not going to go well because I'm ignoring knowing. It's the knowing of, actually, this isn't the right time for this. This isn't the right place, or this actually isn't my idea. And when I can really let it go in allowance and the contribution and let it float out there, the amount of times I see it pop up somewhere else with someone who doesn't even know me, and I go, awesome, I knew it wasn't for me. Because anytime we try to control, force, or make something happen, if it doesn't feel in flow, that energy we're putting into it could be over here creating something so easy and incredibly. Let's take our hands off it needing to be difficult. And I love that you said that before, like in relationship, how we then go, oh, it's not that bad. Not that bad. It never feels that bad after the emotion's gone. Hey, we can't physically maintain screaming, yelling, high levels of grief and rage and fear. We can't maintain it. Eventually you pass out or fall asleep anyway. You can't maintain that for hours and days, etc. So then we have to swing back into all of that stuff we talked about in the first few minutes. Your beliefs, comparison, they're not that bad, it must have been me. We go into all of that stuff so fast that we think it's real. Because if our brain tells us and we think it must be right, yeah? But what if it's not? Because your body, the consciousness of your body is always going to be spirit. It's always going to know the truth. We just have to ask the questions, be quiet, and trust when it comes. And we do that all the time, a lot, really easily. How many times does someone go, oh my God, I was just thinking about you and you turned up? Or you just drove past me and I was going to call you. Or you get the answer to something, might pop up on social media and you go, oh, I was looking for that. And I know people can talk about, whoever it is hearing you and listening to you. But, we're the creators and the masters of our own destiny, which means that we're also the creators of the things, the limitations and stuff we put in the way of it. And a lot of the time we do that because we're not brave enough to outcreate anyone else, and we're not willing to be the greatest. We're not willing to have a really easy life because most people will try and tell us not to. Well, it's all right for her. She's got her father's money. Well, so what? Remember in the old days when they used to have divisions of old money and new money? Who cares? It's just money. And money just is a way that we move through life. We're the creator of everything in our life. Money can be, the byproduct of that. It can be the result of that. But some people who don't earn any money at all and don't work at all in any capacity are the happiest people in the world. We need to move away from You can only be happy if you're saving the world, making $200,000 a year, got everything. Because what if you can be truly happy if you have all of that, if you lose all of that, or if you never have that? And I guess that's what I'm most passionate about. For me, I want everyone to have a life like that, but I want that for me. And so I'm, my own guinea pig. So every day it's like, oh, wow, where did that just take me? Wow, how do I create that? And what am I going to do to create the change? Because if I'm worried, pissed off, fearful, and in doubt all the time, all I'm doing is spilling that out into the world for someone else to pick up, and then they'll feel like that too.
So what are some of the really simple sort of daily practices that you're doing to make sure that you stay in that energy and stay in that awareness and I suppose have that muscle so that if things do get tough again, you come back to where you know you need to be?
Yeah. Well, it's pretty much 24/7. I'll often wake up and realize that I've been doing processes in my sleep as well. So I use a lot of the access consciousness tools, the verbal tools, and I get my bars run a lot and get everything shifting. So that's a really big daily part. And the shamanic rituals of acknowledging the earth around me and being on the earth, looking at around me, practicing gratitude. An interesting tool that I realized just came in. Again, there's that intuition when you're asking the question all the time, show me what else, show me how I can create greater. What do I need to move through this? The answers come in your dreams. They come all over the place. So I realized a couple of months ago that as I was just about asleep one night, I just heard this voice say, I love you, Natalie, like my voice, but I didn't speak. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And now I've realized that every night I'm saying that before I go to sleep. So I didn't figure that one out. It just happened. I was like, that's a really nice thing to say to myself at the end of the day, particularly, those days where you don't think you've done a great job of anything and you haven't been very kind to yourself up here. It's like, hey, just remember I love you. And I don't go into listing all the reasons why. I love gratitude practices. I love, listing the things that I'm grateful for around me. What else do I do? I really limit my time on TV and people. So I don't socialize a lot. I don't, I don't go into bars and stuff like that. I really like my time on my own. I get that that's difficult for people to do that if they like lots of social activity. But for me, I've only started living on my own completely since my grandmother passed away 2 years ago. So I've only had 2 years where I've not been looking after people, living with people and having to be aware of everything I do and the effect on them. So this is all really new to me. And the silence is incredible. The silence is incredible. And there's the things that I need to fill my cup, like freedom, the freedom to do what I want, the silence to not be triggered all the time. Because sometimes we go looking for a fight just to have that something to do, and that's something to fix, and that's something to prove. So being untriggered is beautiful and blissful. And, I work with a lot of shamanic practices. I'll often just do a really simple practice of lighting a candle and just connecting with the flame and bringing it to my heart with my eyes closed. And I just bring that energy through my heart, out through the crown and out through the feet. And in that moment, I'm connecting with all 4 directions and all elements of the earth. And sometimes I'll sit in that space and ask a question of like, what do I do here? I don't know what to do next. Or I might just sit there and an idea will drop in. Yeah.
They're all so lovely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
To be respectful of your time, and thank you for all the time you've given us and the wisdom. So valuable. Where can listeners find you if they want to ask more questions or they want to use any of your offerings and work with you?
Beautiful. My website's thevibrationalhealer.com.au. My Facebook is Natalie McIvor, The Vibrational Healer. That's probably the best ways, messenger or message me off my website. And I've got some retreats coming up, and I've got some women's workshops, and I teach classes from time to time, and also a lot of private work. So my work is now moving into, a lot of people want private time, a whole day to just be all about them. And that really accelerates everything. It accelerates everything because you're held accountable in that day. And I'm about to launch a joint venture of Aligned Business Academy in August and a podcast. So I'm hoping that you will be on the other side of the Zoom and be on my podcast when I've got that launched next month as well.
Love to. Love to.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing all that with us. And thanks so much for sharing your wisdom generally.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a beautiful contribution for me to receive such a beautiful honor as well. So thank you.